Jesus 911.
We're 10-8. I am giving us a reason to share our faith with others, maybe even non-Catholics, maybe non-Christian even. But one of the things is now that there seems to be a reason for an afterlife, and that's I always thought that was important to be able to show others. It says one of the most striking cases was cataloged by Kimberly Clark, who interviewed a patient who had suffered heart failure and then been resuscitated. The patient said she hovered over her body and then moved out through the hospital wall where she saw a sneaker on a ledge. Following her instructions, the hospital found a shoe that met her precise description. The only way she could have had such a perspective, said Clark, was if she had been floating right outside and at very close range to the tennis shoe. Now, I remember seeing this show introduced several years ago, actually. It was a show that talked about life after death. It was focusing on life after death. And this young woman spoke about how she died on the table as the hospital staff were trying to resuscitate her. So they were doing CPR, administering drugs, etc., and trying to bring her back to life. She had died. Now, she says that she told how she floated over herself in the room. And then as time went on, and there were several minutes here, she began to float even over the hospital, where she recalls seeing a tennis shoe on the roof. Now, this was brought out a little bit later, but she remembers little details like that, and which was not on the floor where she was a patient, but another part of the hospital. So it wasn't as if she was just in her room that she could see everything there. She was above the hospital. I can look down into her room, but also notice a tennis shoe that was on the ledge. It was several days after she was asked about what happened while she was on the table, explaining what happened on the table, that she mentioned the shoe. Someone finally went out and recovered the shoe. And the shoe was very, she gave a precise description of that shoe. And so it was very, very interesting to note that this person, there was some type of awareness after death. Father Robert Spitzer cites in several other peer-reviewed examinations of near-death experiences in his work on evidence of our transphysical soul. So this was something, a book that Father has called Evidence of Our Transphysical Soul. If we have awareness that transcends our bodies, isn't it existence after death? Isn't existence after death possible? Remember, we're not proving the Catholic understanding here. We're citing proof which transcends these things. It's a type of proof where the person doesn't have to be Catholic or even a Christian. Matter of fact, this type of proof is best suited for non-believers. Now, it says here, yes, it is. Popular culture has decided in everything from a man called Ove to Dog the Bounty Hunter. Ove, an intentionally best-selling novel by Swedish author Fredrik Backman, tells a story of an old man who repeatedly tries to kill himself. In the story, it is taken as a given that doing so will reunite him with his deceased wife. And, this is something that some of us will live to a point where we lose a loved one, maybe even a spouse, where we long to be reunited with them. It says here, Dwayne Dog Chapman, the dog hunter, I think they call him, the bounty hunter, a popular reality television star, describes this same belief in an interview after his wife, Beth, passed away recently. I think she passed away in the last year. He said, I feel like if I did something to myself right now and passed away suicidal and I got to heaven, he said, Beth would say, wow, you're here. I'll be like, of course I'm here. You left me. I'm here. So am I obligated to do that? He also imagines Beth might get angry at him for committing suicide. At its best, the belief in a benign afterlife still forces people to take death seriously. So somehow death has a way to bring people to reality. Catholics should know how crazy this type of talk sounds. Doc had a troubled childhood. He was married a few times that I know, a few times before. He was even in jail as a youth. But we have to understand that grief is the most difficult trial that this life has to offer. The most difficult trial. Those of us who have lost a loved one know the feeling of loss. We know what works for one person's grief to alleviate it, to soften the blow, may not help at all the next person. Everybody deals with grief differently. And I think most of us who have been through these things are aware that that's a very precise and accurate statement, that everybody deals with grief differently.